Welcome everyone to The Enthusiast Life. I am your host, Mark Turcott. I'm so glad each and every one of you have decided to make me a part of your day. Well, my friends, it is Tuesday, August 31st, 2021. Yes, the final day of August. September begins tomorrow. Man, it's so great. I love moving into fall. And, look, we're not exactly to fall yet, but we always go here to Asheville, North Carolina, usually in the fall. There's an apple orchard we go to up there, and I love going up into the Blue Ridge Mountains, going out there, and it's almost time for that. But I haven't talked about it yet. We're actually going to Disney here for the 50th anniversary. I think it's October 1st is the day that we go. We're actually going to get there the day after the official Walt Disney World 50th anniversary, and we're doing a big week-long trip. We haven't done a week-long trip to the Magic Kingdom or to Disney World in a long, long time. I mean, you guys hear me on the show talk about it a lot, when we go, but we're usually going for like a 3-day weekend. We're actually going for the big one where we're getting park hopper. I think we're going to be, I think it's 6 days, 5 or 6 days in the park. I know kind of in the middle, we're taking a little bit of a gap, but yeah, I got the park hopper. So we're kind of doing them all. And we're actually finally going to be doing the build the lightsaber. We're actually doing 2 sabers, so we can all go in. So both the kids and my wife and myself can go in and kind of go through that whole experience. I have everybody always telling me, like, you need to do that. You got to go through that experience. Well, we're finally going to do it this time. And my wife's been trying. She's been trying to, get us out of it because I think she's just looking at the amount of money that we're going to be spending on these sabers. But she's like, well, what if we get into, our Rise of the Resistance boarding group at that time and we can't? I'm like, well, that's fine. We're still going to build the lightsabers and we'll figure that out afterwards. And she's like, well, I think some of the rides you bring the lightsabers on. I'm like, well, I'll just go back to the car. She's like, well, where are we going to take the gondola? Because we're staying at the Pop Century. She's like, we're going to take the gondola and, you're not going to be able to have the car. I'm like, well, that day I'll be taking the car and I'll bring it back and I'll ride the gondola back and you guys go into the park and have fun because we're building some lightsabers. So I can't wait to be talking about those guys here on the show. But that whole week, of course, will be all about Disney, and it's that first week of October that will be there. So if any of you are going to be at Magic Kingdom, I know some people have in the Discord, someone has a trip scheduled a little bit later on that month. But if you're going to be in Walt Disney World there at the beginning of October, let me know. Maybe we can do a little meetup or something and talk some Disney. But today here on the show, guys, not really a ton to talk about. A couple cool little stories here. Well, actually, really one cool little story and something else I want to give some impressions of. But as always, don't forget you can follow me on Twitter at MarkTurc, MarkTurc. And of course, you can always email the show at theenthuslife@gmail.com. So let's talk about this Call of Duty Vanguard alpha that came out this past weekend exclusively for the PlayStation platforms on PS4 and the PS5. And essentially it was one mode, this new Champion Hill mode that is kind of the new kid on the block mode that they, I think were, showing off for a couple reasons. Number one, just to show off the mode for people to see it. Number two, I think to check the matchmaking and all that, probably servers and all that in that mode, and just going to see how it all plays. And, to give people just a taste of what this game has to offer. And I dipped in just for a little bit. When I saw that this alpha was coming, I was actually a little excited because I was like, man, my son and I love the gunfight mode. Remember, this is that 2v2 mode. And him and I have had a lot of fun playing that. I've talked about it here on the show, both in Modern Warfare and in last year's Black Ops Cold War. So I thought he would want to be in. Number one, he didn't want to hook up the PlayStation 4 because our PS4 is not hooked up anywhere. I basically just have the PS5 and my kids play on Xboxes. And he's like, I don't really want to hook it up. I was like, well, I'll hook it up. I'll download it. And then he just didn't really want to play it. And that kind of said everything for me for how I think this Call of Duty may kind of be going for some people. He was a kid that, always past couple of years was all about getting the new Call of Duty and up in the news. And of course, I've talked here on the podcast how he's into Fortnite and that's kind of everything. But really no interest. And I think part of that is the time frame of the game as well, and that's going back to World War II. Call of Duty World War II for him, for the age he thought it was cool that he was able to play Call of Duty at that point. But it's really the Black Ops games. Like when that game was out, he was going back and playing like Black Ops 3, or I'm trying to think I think maybe even Black Ops 4 was out at that point. that's what he liked more, was the faster paced, kind of crazy weapons and all that. And I think that's going to be a problem this game is going to have. For me personally, I don't mind it. I think it's cool. I like that. And I've talked about it before. I kind of have just this fascination with World War II. And granted, Call of Duty isn't exactly the greatest representation of that. I mean, the earlier games were that. But I'm interested in what this campaign is going to have to offer. But in playing Champion Hill mode, let me just kind of explain it to you. It's basically 8 teams of 2. And you go into essentially just this little mini tournament is what it is. And your team has 12 lives. And you'll see kind of a scoreboard, and it'll show you and your partner. And then this little, and everybody else as well. And then this little icon kind of goes up and down and just picks another team for you to face. Puts you on a random map, throws you in there for like a minute or whatever the time was, minute and a half. And you duke it out. And depending on how many lives you come out with, you move on to the next round with that many lives, facing yet another random team on a random map, and rinse and repeat. Now, in the beginning of the rounds, they give you some money, like a buy round, kind of think of like Counter-Strike or Valorant, where you're buying weapons, you're buying armor, grenades, whatever you want. And the better you do, the more money you get. You can find money kind of stashed around the maps, and you can buy things in between some of these rounds to get better weapons. So in theory, this mode is very, very cool. But in practice, I don't know. I don't know if it was just the competitiveness of it, or, one of the interesting things about Gunfight is, if I can remember correctly, I think it's first team to 5 rounds. And so part of what makes that cool is because you're starting from scratch, both with even weapons. The way Gunfight works is that it always randomizes the weapons after every 2 rounds, but you have the same as the people on the other side. With this Champion Hill, it's always different weapons, and so it just didn't. It added a sense of randomness, to it, which to some, I guess, competitive-wise, could be cool, especially with the buy round. To me, this really felt like more of an esport type game, where you're going to have people theorizing the best loadouts to have and all that stuff. And I don't know, just to me, Gunfight feels more competitive because it is that even playing field. And I've talked about how I like games like that more. That's why I like Halo more than I do most other shooters, because of that static weapon set that people get. It's you're starting with your assault rifle and your pistol. That's your Halo, and then your weapons are on the map. That kind of plays over in a Gunfight, where it's like both teams are on the same map, both starting on an even playing field with our weapons and everything. Go. And from round to round, you start to learn in Gunfight the play styles of your enemies, and there become multiple paths for each of you to follow. And it kind of becomes just this, cat and mouse that you just kind of start to learn that. Where with Champion Hill, I never got that. You don't get that in Champion Hill because you're just playing random teams, and there's the randomness of weapons that they're buying. And then, on top of that, and this, I actually saw some people posting this online. I think they've even addressed it. Visually, it's hard to see the people in some of these because just the color palette of the game is very dark and gloomy and brown and gray and black. And that is World War II aesthetic, but it just, I don't know, it just didn't feel good. So I don't really think this was a great way to show off what Call of Duty Vanguard has to offer. I think it was kind of a missed opportunity. I think this is something they could have just added and maybe gave us a typical multiplayer first, then shown this. But I showed this. I mean, I know this is what they wanted to show and kind of what they wanted to put out there, for people to say, hey, look at our new mode. This is cool, right? This is what's gonna make Vanguard's multiplayer different, is with this mode. And sure it is, but I don't know how many people are really going to play this mode. I mean, who knows? Maybe there'll be some sort of big esports community that comes up around it. I mean, it's cool. If you have, it's maybe in me playing it, it's not that much fun, but I think it would be cool as hell to watch 8 real competitive teams play this at a high level. I think that would be neat. But in terms of myself playing it, I don't know, and my son was kind of checking it out, looking over my shoulder, and just, it wasn't going to be for him. So, I think for me, really this fall, man, it's all, in terms of my shooter for this fall, it's obviously all Halo Infinite. But, I was not going to say I was really on the fence because Battlefield 2042 was already going to be a definite. But there was still in the back of my mind, like, man, well, what if Call of Duty's good too? And then I got to buy that. And I got, Battlefield. It's all Battlefield. Like, that's my military shooter, for between that and Call of Duty, that's it. So like now after playing what I did of Vanguard, I'm all in on Battlefield. Like, that's the game that I'm definitely going to be looking forward to playing, for a military shooter for sure. So I don't know. I know they're going to do some other weekends, and hopefully they kind of bring in just a regular multiplayer. But I think this really may be the year that Call of Duty kind of falls off its pedestal for sure. I mean, Call of Duty Ghosts that year, that was the year what the PS4 and the Xbox One came out. That was kind of an off year for them. But I think this will be the first time since then that they really, don't do that great, especially with Battlefield 2042. Now, when I say Call of Duty doesn't do that great, it's still going to sell millions. It'll still be like the number 2 selling game of the year. And of course, Warzone is going to have no problems because I think that's almost a problem for them now. And I mean, sure, they're making a ton of money, and it's not a problem that they're making a ton of money with Warzone, but it's like pulling people away from Warzone just to play the regular Call of Duty now. That's going to be something that they're going to have to be kind of having to face. And that's why I think they're monetizing Warzone as much as possible, selling $20, $30 skin packs, because most people are just playing that now. They're not playing kind of that typical Call of Duty mode. But so that's my thoughts on Call of Duty Vanguard. We'll see when some of the next beta and alpha and all that come out. Check it out. If you're a Call of Duty fan, I mean, I definitely recommend you checking it out. But it's definitely fallen off my radar now for sure. This fall. One final story here I did want to talk about was a thing that we did get confirmation that The Rocketeer is coming to Disney Plus, and no, not just the regular Rocketeer movie, but a new film entitled The Return of the Rocketeer. Yes, that's right. It is coming, as far as we know, to Disney Plus, and this is Deadline reporting it, saying that it's being helped by the producers Jessica and David Oyelowo. I'm not going to say that right, so I'm not even going to bother. But one of them potentially will star in the project. He was actually the actor that played Martin Luther King in Selma. So if you remember that film that came out back in 2014. But that's right. This is going to be a reboot of The Rocketeer, which is awesome. Remember, this was a retired Tuskegee Airman who ends up becoming the Rocketeer. And the Rocketeer, of course, takes place back in the classic days. Kind of had a very neat just aesthetic to it, kind of the classic, what was that, the 20s, 30s, I think that was kind of taking place in. It's based on a graphic novel of that young pilot who becomes that, who kind of flies around with a jetpack. I remember when this film came out, it was back in, 1991, so I was young. I was, I guess I would have been 10 at that point, 10, 11. And I remember going to the theaters to see it, and I think a friend had a birthday party, which, it's kind of weird. I mean, our local theater still does that. They have birthday parties at the movie theater. But I remember going to a birthday party, and I've only seen that movie that one time. Never saw it again. I remember all the hype for that film and thinking, just because, at that point, that was around when I was 9 or 10 is when I got into comics. And I remember thinking, like, man, it's going to be a crazy new superhero. And I remember kind of being let down by the actual movie itself. And I haven't watched it since, and I know, like, it's a movie that I need to go back and watch. I know it didn't do good at the box office. I know it's one of those things that, Disney kind of, for a while, had kind of shoved under the rug. But it has built somewhat of a cult following here through the years. And at some point, I got to go watch that. And, I think it'd be interesting maybe to watch that with the kids. I know my wife, she's seen it, I know. But I think, like me, it was just that one time. She hasn't really seen it again. So maybe we'll sit down and watch it. And I'm sure now, kind of going back and watching it as an adult and kind of just having that appreciation for the nostalgia that movie has, I think it would be pretty neat. But, either way, like, just the aesthetic of the character and the character design, I've always thought was awesome. That helmet is just cool as hell. So I think this might be a great way to bring it back. And, come on, with today's technology and this thing is going to be awesome. So many people are going to love this movie when it comes out. So we'll be on the lookout for that. Obviously, we got a lot of time before it does come out. But I'm definitely something I would be looking forward to kind of what they're going to be able to do to kind of take that modern take on the Rocketeer. Although I say modern, hopefully it's still set back in those old times, and they make sure all the sets and all that still kind of have that old timey feeling, because that's really what made the Rocketeer what it was for sure. So, all right, well, that's going to do it for me here today, guys. Don't forget, we got a new episode of What If tomorrow. So it'll be What If Wednesday here on the podcast. This episode, supposedly we're getting the first appearance of Doctor Strange. So what is in store with Doctor Strange in the What If universe here? We'll have to wait and see, but I can't wait. We'll be talking about that tomorrow. And Thursday in the feed, I'll be dropping the latest Patreon episode. Will be coming out on Thursday. I actually have to work at a Walmart almost an hour away this week. So, yeah, I'll be just dropping the Patreon episode into the feed. So look out for that on Thursday. So with that, guys, have a great rest of your day. And until tomorrow, we'll catch you next time.